compatibility on the Steam Deck. I've already done a video testing Linux games and testing Windows games on a separate video. Most of all Windows games, but there were a couple of Linux games on there. But this time, these are games that Valve specifically said are unsupported. So why are they unsupported? And more importantly, do they actually work? Can I get around the issues, or are they just completely not playable? Let's get into the video and find out. Right, welcome to the bit where I, actually do the thing that I said that I was going to do in the thumbnail. So, with Dragon Ball FighterZ, I tried this in my last video to see how well this ran on the Steam Deck, and spoiler alert for that video, it didn't work. So, what I didn't try that time is going into the properties, and then going to compatibility and forcing a specific compatibility layer. Oh, did that one use Proton Experimental as well? Oh, that one did do Experimental, okay. Because in some games, using Proton Experimental actually works. So what I will try and do is do Proton 7.0. Let's see if this boots. I don't think it will, but hey, you never know. That's what testing is for.
10 seconds later.
No, okay. I don't really think there's much point going through all the other versions of Proton. I mean, if it didn't work in Experimental, then I don't think it's going to work at all. I will try doing the Experimental again just to see what happens.
A few moments later.
No, okay. As suspected, when it comes to something that has anti-cheat in it, yeah, it just does not work, so I might as well just uninstall this. Maybe it'll work in the future, who knows, but there seems to be an issue with the game itself and not anything to do with Proton or compatibility, unfortunately. On to the next game. Right, here we go. Here's Fall Guys next. I think this is a similar reason, so if we go to Game Info and then Unsupported, Game Anti-Cheat, I have a feeling it's going to be exactly the same as Dragon Ball. Okay, so this was only Proton 7.0-1. They haven't tried it in the experimental ones, so let's give Proton Experimental a go. I'm curious if I can actually get into game, or if it's literally just you can't even boot because of the anti-cheat. Oh, okay, alright. This is running Epic Games services. The Fall Guys have got some kind of thing with Epic Games. Then again, I think I had the Epic Games launcher installed on my computer before I played Fall Guys, so maybe that's why I didn't notice.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Here we go. Here's easy anti-cheat. It's mad, because when I used to play Fall Guys all the time, I must have seen one cheater every round. Actually, probably even multiple cheaters per round. I don't know if anti-cheat is actually doing anything, or if they're just getting around it, but yeah. Okay, well, so far it seems to have literally just crashed. Like, it hasn't even booted me out yet. System menus work at least. Okay, well, at least something slightly different happened this time. So instead of just quitting out immediately, it just freezes. On to the next game, I guess. Next one I want to try is Hotshot Racing, and the reason why is because this runs on the Switch. So I'm really confused as to why Valve would say that it doesn't. Yeah, the official reason is just they're working on it, and they're just saying it doesn't work. I mean, that's the thing. It's not even like anti-cheat. It doesn't give a specific reason. It just says doesn't work. So let me find out why it doesn't work.
11 minutes later.
I mean, we're in the menus, and the menus seem to be working just fine. Oh, I made a video on this game, by the way, like a review, so go watch that. It'll be in the description if you want to watch that. We're playing the game. You see what I mean? I don't know why Valve have said this game is unsupported. So far, I've not had a single issue. I haven't even had to change the Proton version either. When did they test this? I mean, I got into game, I got into the menus, everything, and it's working fine. So normally, again, most companies would be like, well, our game works absolutely fine, and then people test it and it doesn't. Or at least that's how you'd expect it to go. But this is the opposite. Like, Valve said, oh, this game probably won't work, and it works absolutely fine. Okay, well, I'm not entirely sure if this has anything to do with the Steam Deck, or if this is literally just the game itself, but for some strange reason, I can't get into an online match. I mean, I'd like to think it's just the game itself has absolutely no online, but I don't know. But either way, I can't play an online match. The next game I wanted to play is just this random gambling parody thing. I think this came out like when the height of Battlefront 2 came out, or the loot boxes, basically just a parody game of loot boxes and that kind of stuff. Apparently, Valve has tested it, said that it doesn't work, but also doesn't tell us why it doesn't work. I mean, this doesn't have anti-cheat, so Proton 7.1, apparently they've tested it. But let's give it a go and see if it boots. I think I put a new screen protector on this, but I think it's actually got rid of some of the touch sensitivity. 50 million? Where'd I get 50 million from? Let's open actual trash, I guess. Oh, get more trash. So far, it's working absolutely fine. Whether that's a good thing or not depends on if you like this kind of game. This is basically just all video games. Oh, I like that box. I'm going to keep that box. There you go. See, not Battlefront 2. You see what I mean? That was why this game exists. So there's just like this weird snake clone, basically, in this loot box game, right? At first, I thought this wasn't working, so I was like, oh, I guess this is why Valve said it's not working, because part of the game just straight up doesn't work. But, I mean, it's working now. Well, I mean, I'm terrible at it, but this is working just fine. The other mode's working just fine. Unless you encounter something that I don't. If you just happen to have this particular game and happen to have a Steam Deck, which is like 1 in a million, it's fine. Now, the last game I wanted to test is probably the most interesting game, because not only is apparently Garry's mod not supported, according to Valve, obviously, and it doesn't say, it just says Valve is still working to add support for it, but this is also a primarily PC game. But then Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1 and Portal 1 and Portal 2 and basically every other Source engine game works just fine. So why Garry's mod wouldn't, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe you could argue like, you know, it's the Lua scripts or like the mods or something, but as you're about to see, we're still on like 480p mode, working absolutely fine. In my own time, I was just messing around with the resolutions and stuff, so I was actually playing at 480p with FSR upscaled, and it actually looks pretty decent with that. You can still tell it's upscaled, so it's not perfect, but it's still alright. Again, I haven't done really multiplayer stuff, but I don't see why that would be an issue. Even like this highway map, right? This is not part of the original game. This is just, this is a mod from the workshop. Boot into the game.
5 minutes later.
It does take a while to boot in, but after you've booted in, see, as you can see, working absolutely fine. I can jump, I can rotate. I did add like a couple of extra things as well. So for example, I can use one of the back buttons to get into the spawn menu. So for instance, I can just hold this down and then I can go into, you know, vehicles. Yeah, let's go across. But oh, as you can see, the errors still work. This game is still as broken as usual. What about the smart car? Can I spawn the smart car in? There you go, smart car worked. As you can tell, this is a PC game first and foremost. So I've mapped them to the mouse keys, but I can't even use them to actually move the car. So I have to press up on the control stick because it'd be, you know, W. Hang on, have I got FSR on? I don't think I have at the moment. Let me put FSR on quickly. There you go. See, so that's what it looks like 480p linear, which 480p actually looks fine on the Steam Deck, to be honest. You can tell it's 480p and looks a bit fuzzy and whatnot, but it looks a lot better than you'd think. Compared to linear, FSR is basically somewhere between linear and nearest. But here you go. Here's 480p with FSR on. As you can obviously tell in the corner there is definitely some glitching because it's only got half the resolution. It's only got 480p to work with. If it wasn't readable then it certainly won't be readable now. I played this like for like an hour a couple of days ago. Game runs absolutely fine. Obviously, depending on what mods you have, your mileage may vary, and especially, you know, you might get weird frame rate issues or weird compatibility issues, but the base game itself, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record saying this, but it runs absolutely fine. So again, unless the game has some form of anti-cheat, which physically just does not let you boot up the game, I've not found a single game that I haven't been able to get working, which is incredible, honestly, because even on other versions of Linux, compatibility is still pretty spotty. You can expect like about half your library to work, so Steam Deck compatibility is absolutely insane. So here's one last game example. This is a game that Valve just doesn't know. They haven't confirmed or denied that it works properly. But here's the interesting thing, right? This is the initial game that I tried this with. So if we go back to Proton 7.0-1, now you'll see something very peculiar happens with this game. Now, I actually originally thought that this had controller support, but I guess it must have just been Steam mapping it to a controller, because when I played it on my PC, it worked just fine through a controller, but when I played it on the Steam Deck, it didn't, so I had to configure my own mouse and keyboard to set anything. Oh, the spooky music. So, as you can see, it gets into the menu, so I didn't think anything of it. I think, okay, so I click play, and then click load, and as you'll see, it goes to this menu here, and then it freezes, and it stays like this forever. What it should do is after this, it should go into a black screen and then say loading in the corner. Under Proton 7, literally nothing. It will just stay here like forever. There is no point. I've waited like 5 minutes on this menu. You can try it yourself if you don't believe me, but yeah, this doesn't work. So, because it's soft locked, you're going to have to quit out the game manually. As I say, you need to then go back to the compatibility and then force Proton Experimental specifically, and then let's launch the game back up.
Just then.
There you go. Now we're back to the menu, but this time when I go into load game, as you see, click yes. Now see, black screen, and it'll go to the little loading thing in the corner. You can't see it on camera. There's a tiny little loading in the corner. And then we wait a little bit longer. You can see by the frame graph that things are happening. And here we go. So now we are actually in the game. From what I found in terms of just stability, you will get the occasional FPS drop if you have everything on ultra settings. But the thing that I've really found that makes the biggest difference is the shadows. So you can see I've got everything on best here, but shadows are on low because at the moment it's going at like high 50s. But as soon as I put shadows on, dipped down to the mid 40s, and that's just on okay, so that's like medium settings. Then on best it goes like to 30 FPS and even lower than that. In my experience, even the okay setting, which is about medium settings, that still does not perform very well. So on the Steam Deck in particular, if you turn all shadows off, you'll have a more or less solid 60 FPS even with every other setting cranked, and even then you will still see shadows of some kind. But the interesting thing is that everything else about this game works absolutely fine under Proton Experimental, except as you're about to see. So this is where you meet Huggy, right? And yet, where is Huggy? Now, if I just see, so I can even go into here, which I'm not supposed to be able to. Now, if I just stay here, eventually, I think he's gone now. As you can see, eventually you get stuck in this room, which you're not supposed to be able to. You're supposed to be pushed out of here and beat Huggy. And now, oh, there we go. As you can see, I have a screenshot of him just staring through this wall. That is pretty spookier than the actual game itself. And if you think that you're stuck here, you're not really stuck here. All you have to do is just walk right up to him. And then he gets you through the wall, apparently, as you can see. So you might be wondering, okay, well, how do you actually, like, complete the game then? How are you supposed to get through it? It's such a weird glitch, because I haven't had this on Windows. This is only on the Steam Deck, from what I can tell. So what you have to do is when it opens, you're supposed to see Huggy about now. So you have to turn around, turn back, and there he is. And then you have to get the actual out of there, otherwise you will die. And then you just go down the whole hallway and do the same thing that every YouTuber died from because of a heart attack by playing this. Once you know what you're doing, it's actually really easy. Like, you come through there and you just go, okay, let me just go through here and let me just chill out. Again, the frame rate is absolutely fine. Like, there is the occasional dip here and there, but it is a Unreal Engine game, so that's kind of to be expected. But obviously you can turn the settings down and get an absolute solid 60 FPS if that's your kind of thing. I'm quite happy to sacrifice a couple of extra FPS just for the extra visual quality, because this is actually a really nice looking game. So now I've got to wait for Wuggy the Huggy to come over this way and then let me through, and then I do this. They're all telling me to turn back, but if I turn back I die, so that's kind of pointless. Hopefully he doesn't get me here. Nope, good, because if he did I'd be really annoyed there. And then you do the thing where you get these two and you pull it down, and he gets a really, really bad concussion, I'd imagine. And then you just walk through there and complete the game. So yeah, I've played through this twice now, and you can complete the entire game on the Steam Deck. If games don't work, try the experimental Proton compatibility thing, and they should run absolutely fine. Again, as long as they don't have anti-cheat, even games that Valve say don't work seem to run absolutely fine in my experience. Like, there may be something game-breaking later on, but I haven't experienced anything as of far. Compatibility on the Steam Deck is literally 9.5 out of 10. The only reason I say not 10 out of 10 is because of the anti-cheat. Honestly, for like what, 20, 30 games probably in your library out of like 500, that is pretty darn good. Back to outro me. I have a cat joining me. Look at him, he's so cute. So that's the video. Overall, compatibility on the Steam Deck is absolutely fantastic, and even games that are apparently not supported by Valve, or games that shouldn't work according to Valve's testing, work completely fine. Now, I'm not even really sure why they're labeled as unplayable. Maybe there's a part of the game that I didn't get to that doesn't work properly, but every game that I've tested so far, all of it has worked fine apart from the anti-cheat. So the only ones that you actually cannot play no matter what, as far as I know, is games that have certain anti-cheats that haven't been supported on Linux at all. And obviously they're designed to, you know, not have people tampering with them. But besides that, every game so far I've ever tested has worked fine. There might be one game that I encounter. Other than that, yeah, it's just amazing. There's no other word for it. It's just incredible what Valve have done. If you like it, go watch my other videos, please. I'm begging you nicely. Like and subscribe, all the rest of it, and see you later.